I've invested in hundreds of companies. I've turned down thousands more. And I can tell within 5 minutes whether someone is going to win or just dream about winning. There's an invisible filter between these two groups, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Most people fail this filter without ever knowing it exists. I'm going to show you exactly what separates people who build empires from people who talk about building empires. This isn't about talent. It's not about education or connections or luck. It's about something so simple that most people miss it completely. And that's the problem. The filter is invisible because it's built from small daily choices that seem meaningless in the moment but compound into everything over time. In the next hour, I'm breaking down the exact filter I use, the same one that's made me billions, the same one that keeps 95% of people stuck while 5% build everything they want. 2001. I'm sitting in a conference room with 12 entrepreneurs. They all pitch me, they all want money, they all think they deserve it. On paper, they look similar, good ideas, decent backgrounds, reasonable plans, but I'm only investing in one of them, maybe two if I'm feeling generous. The other 10 will go home empty-handed. They'll tell themselves I didn't see their vision, that I made a mistake, that they'll prove me wrong. They won't prove me wrong. I know this sitting in that room. I can see who's going to win and who's going to fail, not because of their pitch, not because of their business plan, because of something completely different. One guy, I'll call him Michael, has a software company. Good product, growing revenue, solid presentation. But when I ask him about his biggest challenge, he talks for 5 minutes about his competitors, about how the market is crowded, about how it's hard to get attention, about external factors. Another guy, Todd Pedersen from Vivint, has a home automation business, also good product, similar market challenges. When I ask him the same question, he doesn't mention competitors once. He talks about execution speed, about team training, about sales process improvements, about things he controls. Same question, completely different answers. One person sees obstacles, one person sees opportunities. One person focuses on what's happening to them. One person focuses on what they're doing about it. I invested in Todd. Vivint became $1 billion company. Michael's company shut down 3 years later. He's still blaming the market, the timing, the competition. He never saw the real problem. The filter caught him and he doesn't even know it. That filter is effort, but not the way most people think about effort. Everyone thinks they work hard. Everyone believes they're putting in effort, but there's a massive difference between being busy and actually working, between looking productive and creating value, between motion and progress. The filter separates people who confuse activity with achievement from people who measure results. I see this on Shark Tank every single week. Entrepreneurs come in and talk about how hard they've been working, how many hours they put in, how much they've sacrificed, and they're telling the truth. They have worked hard. They have put in hours. They have sacrificed, but they're broke. Their business is failing. They need our money to survive. Because effort without direction is just noise. Working hard on the wrong things is worse than not working at all. Being busy with tasks that don't move the needle is a waste of energy. And the invisible filter catches this immediately. Winners ask themselves constantly, is what I'm doing right now creating value? Is this moving me toward my goal? Is this the highest and best use of my time? If the answer is no, they stop doing it. Immediately. No guilt, no justification. They cut it and move to something that matters. Dreamers don't ask these questions. They just stay busy. They confuse hours with output. They measure their day by how tired they are instead of by what they accomplished. And they wonder why years go by without real progress. When I was building micro solutions in the 1980s, I worked insane hours, but every single hour was focused on one thing, getting customers. Everything else was secondary. I didn't spend time making my office nice. I didn't spend time on branding or logo design or business cards. I didn't spend time networking at events. I called potential customers. I solved their problems. I delivered value. That's it. That's what moved the needle. Everything else was a distraction. Most people do the opposite. They spend 80% of their time on things that feel productive but don't actually matter. They organize their desk. They update their website. They design presentations. They attend conferences. They network. All while their business has no customers. The filter catches this. Winners focus on revenue-generating activities. Dreamers focus on comfort-generating activities. But there's another layer to this filter that's even more powerful. Something about how you handle the thing everyone experiences, but few people master. The second part of the invisible filter is stress. Specifically, how you deal with it. Most people try to avoid stress. They see stress as the enemy. They organize their lives to minimize stress. They make choices designed to keep them comfortable. And this guarantees they'll never win. Winners understand something different. Stress is information. Stress tells you where the growth is. Stress points to the opportunities. Stress shows you what needs to be solved. When something stresses you out, that's not a signal to avoid it, that's a signal to attack it. That's where the value is. That's where the money is. That's where the breakthrough lives. I built my entire investing philosophy around reducing stress for others. When I look at a business on Shark Tank, I ask one question: does this reduce stress or create it? Products that reduce stress for customers succeed. Products that create stress for customers fail. It's that simple. But here's the paradox. To build something that reduces stress for others, you have to be willing to take on massive stress yourself. You have to be willing to solve hard problems. You have to be willing to deal with challenges that most people avoid. The invisible filter separates people who run towards stress from people who run from it. Dreamers spend their lives trying to avoid stress. They take the easy path. They choose comfort. They stay in their lane. They don't rock the boat. And they stay exactly where they are forever. Winners deliberately choose stress. They pick the hardest problems. They tackle the biggest challenges. They do what others avoid, because that's where differentiation lives. That's where opportunity hides. That's where fortunes get made. When I was building broadcast.com, we were trying to stream audio over the internet when nobody else was doing it. The technology barely worked. The internet was slow. The problems were endless. Every single day was stressful. Every single day brought new challenges. Most people would have quit. The stress was too much. The problems were too hard. The path was too unclear. But I saw that stress as information. Each problem we solved was a barrier to entry for competitors. Each stress point we overcame was creating value that others couldn't replicate. We sold to Yahoo for $5.7 billion. That stress turned into billions of dollars because we ran toward it instead of away from it. The filter catches people who avoid stress. It lets through people who leverage stress. Want to know which one you are? Look at your last week. When you encountered stress, did you avoid it or attack it? Be honest. Because the filter is already separating you. You just don't see it yet. But there's a third element that might be the most important. Something about how you handle emotions that 95% of people get completely wrong. The third part of the invisible filter is drama. And this one is brutal because most people are addicted to drama without realizing it. Drama is any emotional reaction that doesn't serve your goal. Drama is getting upset about things you can't control. Drama is conflicts with people that don't matter. Drama is being offended, triggered, angry, or emotional about situations that don't change by being emotional about them. Winners eliminate drama completely. They have zero tolerance for it. Not because they're cold or unfeeling, because drama is expensive. Drama costs time. Drama costs energy. Drama costs focus. And winners protect their resources. I have a simple rule. If someone brings drama into my life, they're gone. I don't care who they are. I don't care how talented they are. I don't care what value they could provide. Drama is too expensive. The cost is too high. On Shark Tank, I can spot drama creators instantly. They blame others, they have excuses, they get defensive when asked questions, they take feedback personally. They're emotional instead of rational, and I'm out immediately. I don't care how good their product is. I'm not dealing with drama. The best employee I ever had was someone who reduced my stress by eliminating drama. Problems would come up, and instead of coming to me emotional and overwhelmed, they'd come with solutions. Instead of creating drama around challenges, they'd create calm around chaos. That person became invaluable to me. I never wanted to get rid of them. They understood what most people don't. The greatest value you can provide to anyone is reducing their stress and eliminating their drama. Most people do the opposite. They create stress for others. They bring drama into every situation. They make everything about emotions instead of solutions. They complain instead of fix. They blame instead of build. The filter catches these people instantly. Winners don't have time for drama. They're too busy building, too focused on execution, too committed to results. Think about your last conflict. Did you escalate it or de-escalate it? Did you add emotion or remove it? Did you create drama or eliminate it? Your answer tells you which side of the filter you're on. But understanding the filter is only half the battle. The other half is understanding why most people can't see it operating in their own lives. And that's where things get really interesting. The invisible filter stays invisible because of a psychological blind spot. People can't see their own effort level accurately. They overestimate how hard they work. They underestimate how much time they waste. They justify their lack of results with external factors. I call this the effort blind spot, and it destroys more potential than anything else. When someone fails, they never blame their effort. They blame timing, luck, market conditions, competitors, lack of resources, bad partners, unfair advantages others had, anything except the truth. The truth is they didn't work hard enough on the right things. But admitting that is painful. It's easier to blame external factors. It's more comfortable to believe you were unlucky than to accept you were lazy. So people create narratives that protect their ego while destroying their future. I've interviewed thousands of entrepreneurs. I've invested in hundreds of businesses. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that effort is the only thing you truly control. You can't control the market. You can't control luck. You can't control what competitors do. You can't control the economy, but you can control how hard you work, how smart you work, how focused you are, how much you learn, how quickly you execute, how well you serve customers, how fast you adapt. These are all effort variables, all within your control. Winners understand this. They take full responsibility for outcomes. If something fails, they ask what they could have done differently, how they could have worked harder, smarter, faster, what they missed, where they fell short. They own it completely. Dreamers do the opposite. They externalize failure. They find someone or something else to blame. They protect their ego by avoiding responsibility. And in doing so, they guarantee they'll make the same mistakes again. The invisible filter catches this mindset. It separates people who own their outcomes from people who blame circumstances. I learned this lesson the hard way. In the early 1980s, I got fired from a job. My boss and I disagreed about how aggressive I should be with customers. I thought he was wrong. I thought he was holding me back. I blamed him for not seeing my potential. Years later, I realized the truth. I was arrogant. I wasn't listening. I wasn't adapting. I was so convinced I was right that I couldn't see where I was wrong. That firing taught me a valuable lesson about ownership and accountability. Every time something doesn't go my way now, I ask, what could I have done differently? How could I have worked harder? Where did I fall short? That mindset shift changed everything. Because once you take full ownership, you gain full power. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start being the creator of outcomes. But knowing this intellectually is different from living it daily. And that brings us to the most practical part of the filter, the part that determines your results this week, not just eventually. The invisible filter operates in real time through something I call the 7-2-hour window. This is the gap between when you learn something or decide to do something and when you actually take action on it. Winners act within 72 hours, usually within 24 hours, often immediately. They hear an idea and they test it. They identify a problem and they solve it. They spot an opportunity and they move on it. Fast. No hesitation, no overthinking, action. Dreamers plan. They think about it. They research it. They talk about it. They wait for the perfect moment. They prepare endlessly. And by the time they're ready to act, the opportunity is gone or someone else already did it. The 72-hour window is where the invisible filter does most of its work. It separates people who execute from people who procrastinate, people who ship from people who plan, people who learn by doing from people who learn by thinking. I make decisions fast. People think I'm impulsive. They think I don't think things through. The truth is, I've trained myself to gather information quickly and decide quickly. Because speed is a competitive advantage. While you're planning, someone else is executing. While you're researching, someone else is learning by doing. While you're preparing, someone else is winning. When I see a business I want to invest in on Shark Tank, I decide in minutes. Not because I'm reckless, because I've trained my decision-making process to work fast. I know what I'm looking for, I know what matters, I know what doesn't, so I can cut through the noise and decide. Most people can't do this. They need time, they need to think, they need to consult others, they need to be sure, and by needing certainty, they guarantee mediocrity. Because all the best opportunities require acting with incomplete information. Waiting for certainty means waiting forever. The 72-hour window applies to everything. Learning a new skill? You've got 72 hours to start practicing, or you probably never will. Meeting someone valuable? You've got 72 hours to follow up, or the connection goes cold. Identifying a business opportunity? You've got 72 hours to take the first step, or someone else will. This might sound arbitrary. Why 72 hours specifically? Because that's roughly how long motivation lasts before it fades. That's how long the emotional energy from inspiration carries you before reality sets in. That's the window where action feels possible before doubt creeps in. Winners know this. They use that initial burst of energy to take action before it fades. They don't wait for perfect. They don't wait for ready. They act while the iron is hot. Then they adjust based on feedback. Then they improve based on learning, but they start immediately. Dreamers wait for perfect. They let the 72-hour window close. They let the energy fade. They let doubt creep in, and they never start. Or they start months later when it's too late or too hard. Track yourself for the next month. Every time you learn something useful or decide to do something important, mark the date. Then mark when you actually take action. Calculate the gap. If it's more than 72 hours, you're on the dreamer side of the filter. If it's less than 72 hours, you're on the winner side. But even knowing all of this, most people will still fail the filter because knowing is different from doing. And that brings us to the most powerful part of this whole system. I turned down Ring Doorbell when Jamie Siminoff pitched it on Shark Tank. He asked for $700,000 for 10% of his company. I said no. All the sharks said no. It was one of the worst decisions I've made on the show. Amazon bought Ring for over $1 billion. I missed out on $1 billion exit because I didn't see what Jamie saw. But the interesting part isn't that I said no. The interesting part is what Jamie did after every shark rejected him. Most people would have been devastated. They would have taken the rejection as proof they were wrong. They would have given up or pivoted or changed their approach completely. Jamie did the opposite. He went on QVC the next day, sold $1 million worth of doorbells in one day, used that momentum to raise money elsewhere, kept building, kept executing, kept proving the market wanted his product. He didn't need our validation, he needed customers, and he went and got them. That response is the invisible filter in action. Jamie passed a test he didn't even know he was taking. When faced with rejection from people he respected, he didn't internalize it. He didn't let it stop him. He didn't waste energy being upset. He immediately pivoted to action. Within 24 hours, he was selling product on national television. That's the 72-hour window. That's eliminating drama. That's focusing on what he could control. That's effort directed at the right target. Every part of the filter in one response. Dreamers would have spent a week recovering emotionally from the rejection. They would have questioned themselves. They would have wondered if the sharks were right. They would have lost momentum. Jamie used the rejection as fuel. He proved us wrong not by arguing or complaining, by executing, by selling, by building, by winning. When I saw what Ring became, I didn't feel bad about missing the investment. I felt inspired by Jamie's response to rejection. That's the filter operating at the highest level. Taking every setback and converting it into forward motion. Taking every obstacle and turning it into opportunity. Most people do the opposite. They take obstacles and turn them into excuses. They take setbacks and convert them into stopping points. They take rejection and internalize it as proof they're not good enough. The filter catches this every time. Want to know which side you're on? Think about your last major setback. Did you use it as fuel or as an excuse? Did you act faster or slower after it happened? Did you prove people wrong or prove them right? Your answer tells you everything about your future because the filter is operating whether you see it or not, and it's already determined your outcome. Unless you change how you respond, the invisible filter tracks one thing above all else: where your daily energy goes, not your time, your energy. Because you can spend time on something without spending energy on it. You can be present without being engaged. You can look busy while being mentally checked out. Winners protect their energy like it's their most valuable resource, because it is. They invest energy only in things that compound, things that build, things that create lasting value. Dreamers leak energy constantly. They spend energy on drama, on gossip, on complaining, on worrying, on things they can't control, on people who don't matter, on tasks that don't move the needle. And at the end of the day, they're exhausted with nothing to show for it. I learned this when I was 24 and sleeping on the floor of an apartment with 5 other guys. I had no money, no resources, no connections. All I had was energy. And I realized if I wasted it, I'd stay broke forever. So I made a decision. Every ounce of energy I had would go toward building my business. Not going out, not partying, not watching TV, not complaining about how hard it was. Every bit of energy went to customers, sales, and growth. That decision made me my first million because I out-energized my competition. They were more talented. They had better resources. They had more experience. But I had more energy focused on the right things. And energy wins when it's focused. Most people scatter their energy. They're interested in everything. They try to do everything. They say yes to everything, and they accomplish nothing because scattered energy produces scattered results. Winners concentrate their energy. They say no to almost everything so they can say yes to the few things that matter. They cut distractions ruthlessly. They protect their focus maniacally. They guard their energy like their life depends on it. Because it does. Your energy is your life. Where your energy goes, your life follows. Spend energy on drama, get a dramatic life. Spend energy on excuses, get a life full of missed opportunities. Spend energy on building, get a life full of success. The filter tracks this daily. It's not measuring what you did yesterday or last year. It's measuring what you did today, where your energy went today, what you built today, what you created today. Track your energy for 1 week. At the end of each day, write down where your energy went. How much went to building versus maintaining? How much went to creating versus consuming? How much went to your goals versus other people's goals? If less than 50% of your energy is going toward building what you want, you're on the wrong side of the filter. And your results will reflect that. Not eventually, already. You're already living the results of yesterday's energy choices. But there's one more layer to this filter, the most subtle and most powerful. The thing that determines whether you actually change or just understand you should change. The final part of the invisible filter is how you handle feedback. Specifically, how you seek it, process it, and act on it. Winners actively seek feedback. They ask for criticism. They want to know what they're doing wrong. They hunt for their blind spots because they understand that feedback is the fastest path to improvement. Dreamers avoid feedback. They get defensive when criticized. They surround themselves with people who agree with them. They ignore data that contradicts their beliefs because feedback is painful. Feedback threatens their ego. Feedback means admitting they're wrong. The filter catches this immediately. People who can't handle feedback can't improve. People who can't improve can't win. It's that direct. I made a rule for myself decades ago. Anytime someone criticizes me or my business, my first response is thank you. Not defensiveness, not explanation, not justification. Thank you. Because they just gave me free information I didn't have before. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe I disagree, but maybe they're seeing something I'm missing. Maybe their perspective reveals a blind spot. Maybe their criticism points to a real problem I need to fix. I can't know until I actually consider it, but I can't consider it if I'm defensive. So I say thank you, I process it, and then I decide what to do with it. Sometimes I act on it, sometimes I discard it, but I always consider it. Most people do the opposite. Someone criticizes them and they immediately defend. They explain why the person is wrong. They justify their choices. They dismiss the feedback. and they learned nothing. The Mavericks became a championship team because I was willing to hear feedback from everyone, from players, from coaches, from fans, from critics. I didn't agree with everything, but I listened to everything. And buried in all that noise was valuable signal that made us better. Businesses that fail ignore feedback from customers. They think they know better. They get attached to their vision. They can't hear what the market is telling them, and they die defending a product nobody wants. Businesses that succeed are feedback machines. They're constantly asking customers what works and what doesn't. They're constantly testing and adjusting. They're constantly iterating based on real data instead of assumptions. The invisible filter separates people who seek truth from people who seek validation. Winners want truth even when it hurts. Dreamers want validation even when it's false. Which one are you? Think about the last time someone criticized something you did. Did you get defensive or did you get curious? Did you explain why they were wrong or did you ask them to explain more? Did you dismiss them or did you consider their point? Your answer determines which side of the filter you're on, and that determines your trajectory. Want to know the exact exercise that changed how I process feedback? Every Sunday night, I do the same exercise. I call it the mirror exercise because it forces me to look at myself clearly without ego protection. I pull out a notebook. I write down 3 questions. 1, what did I commit to doing this week that I didn't do? What feedback did I receive this week that I dismissed or ignored? 3, what did I spend energy on this week that didn't move me toward my goals? Then I answer honestly. No justifications, no excuses, no external blame, just truth. The answers are always uncomfortable because I always find things I committed to and didn't do. I always find feedback I dismissed because it was easier than facing it. I always find wasted energy that accomplished nothing. But seeing these patterns is how you break them. You can't fix what you can't see. The mirror exercise makes the invisible filter visible. It shows you exactly where you're failing without the ego protection that normally hides it. Most people never do this. They never honestly assess their week. They never track commitments versus completion. They never review feedback they received. They never audit where their energy went. So they repeat the same patterns forever. They make the same mistakes forever. They stay on the wrong side of the filter forever. Not because they're not capable, because they're not honest. The mirror exercise takes 10 minutes. 10 minutes of uncomfortable truth that can change your trajectory completely. Because once you see the patterns, you can't unsee them. Once you see where you're failing, you can't pretend you're not. Try this for 4 weeks. Every Sunday, answer those 3 questions honestly. Write the answers down. Don't just think about them. Writing forces honesty. Writing creates accountability. Writing makes it real. After 4 weeks, look at the patterns. You'll see exactly where the invisible filter is catching you. You'll see exactly what's holding you back. And once you see it clearly, you can fix it. But only if you're brutally honest. Only if you remove ego protection. Only if you're willing to face uncomfortable truth. Most people won't do this. They'll start, see something they don't like, and stop. They'll choose comfort over growth. They'll choose ego protection over truth. And the filter will catch them. Not because they're not capable, because they're not willing. There's a massive difference. Everything I've told you comes down to one decision. Are you willing to see the truth about yourself? Are you willing to face where you're falling short? Are you willing to remove ego protection and look clearly at your patterns? If yes, you pass through the filter. If no, the filter catches you. It's that simple. The invisible filter isn't complicated. It's not mysterious. It's not unfair. It simply separates people who are willing to face truth from people who prefer comfortable lies. Winners live in truth. They see themselves clearly. They acknowledge their failures. They own their patterns. They take responsibility for outcomes. And because they live in truth, they can change based on truth. Dreamers live in stories. They see themselves through ego protection. They justify their failures. They blame their patterns on circumstances. They externalize responsibility. And because they live in stories, they can't change. Because their stories prevent them from seeing what needs to change. I've been on both sides of this. I've lived in stories. I've protected my ego. I've blamed circumstances. And I stayed stuck. The moment I started living in truth, everything changed. Not eventually, immediately. Truth is painful. Truth is uncomfortable. Truth threatens your self-image. But truth is also liberating. Because truth shows you exactly what to fix. Truth gives you power. Truth creates change. Stories are comfortable. Stories protect your ego. Stories maintain your self-image. But stories trap you. Stories keep you stuck. Stories steal your power. The invisible filter simply asks, do you want truth or comfort? Do you want growth or ego protection? Do you want results or excuses? Your daily choices answer these questions. Not your words, your choices. Where your energy goes, how you respond to stress, whether you eliminate drama, how fast you act, how you handle feedback. The filter is already operating. It's already separating winners from dreamers. It's already determining your outcome. The only question is whether you see it or not, whether you're willing to face it or not, whether you're willing to change based on it or not. Everything we've talked about compounds daily. Small choices about where your energy goes today determine your position tomorrow. Small decisions about how you handle stress this week determine your capacity next month. Small patterns around drama and feedback this month determine your trajectory this year. Winners understand compound effects. They know that massive results come from small daily disciplines. They know that billion-dollar companies are built from thousands of small decisions made well. They know that championship teams are built from thousands of small efforts repeated consistently. Dreamers want the big result without the small disciplines. They want the billion-dollar exit without the daily grind. They want the championship without the daily practice. And because they want the result without the process, they never get either. When I built broadcast.com, people saw the $5.7 billion exit to Yahoo. They didn't see the thousands of days before that. The thousands of decisions, the thousands of problems solved, the thousands of small actions that compounded into something massive. Each day, I made choices, small choices. Where to focus energy, how to handle stress, whether to engage with drama, how fast to act, how to process feedback. Each choice seemed insignificant in the moment, but they compounded. Good choices compounded into good outcomes. Bad choices would have compounded into bad outcomes. The filter was operating daily, catching bad choices and letting through good ones. And over time, those small daily filters created the massive outcome. Most people don't think about compound effects. They think about big moves, big decisions, big changes. But big results don't come from big moves. They come from small moves repeated consistently over time. The invisible filter operates on this truth. It catches people looking for shortcuts. It catches people wanting results without process. It catches people hoping for luck instead of building through effort. And it lets through people who understand that success is built daily, through small disciplines, through small choices, through small efforts that compound into something extraordinary. Your position 5 years from now is being determined by choices you make today. Not eventually, today, right now. Where is your energy going right now? How are you handling the stress in your life right now? What drama are you engaging with right now? What action are you taking right now? The filter is operating in real time. You're either passing through or getting caught, not based on your potential. Based on your choices, based on your actions, based on your patterns. I need to tell you something that might upset you. Talent doesn't matter as much as you think it does. The invisible filter doesn't measure talent. It measures effort, execution, and adaptability. I've met incredibly talented people who were broke. I've invested in incredibly untalented people who became millionaires. The difference wasn't ability, it was willingness. Talented people often rely on talent instead of effort. They cruise on natural ability. They don't develop discipline because they don't need to. Things come easy, so they never learn to work hard. And the moment things get difficult, they quit. Untalented people know they can't rely on talent, so they develop discipline. They outwork everyone. They outlearn everyone. They out-execute everyone. And discipline beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. The invisible filter catches talented people who coast. It lets through untalented people who grind. Because the filter measures effort, not potential. It measures what you do, not what you could do. I'm not the smartest person in any room I walk into. I'm probably not in the top 10, but I guarantee I'll outwork the smartest people in the room. I'll out-execute them. I'll outlearn them. I'll make decisions faster. I'll take action quicker. I'll adjust better. Because I've trained myself to focus on what I control. Effort, execution, speed, adaptability. These are all choice variables, all within your control, all independent of talent. Talent is overrated, effort is underrated. The invisible filter knows this. Society hasn't figured it out yet. People still worship talent and dismiss effort. But the results tell a different story. Effort wins, consistently, over time, in every field. Stop waiting to be talented enough. Stop thinking you need more ability before you start. Stop using lack of talent as an excuse. The filter doesn't care about your talent, it cares about your effort. And effort is a choice you make every single day. You've seen the invisible filter now. You understand how it works. You know what it measures. You recognize the patterns it catches and the patterns it lets through. The question is, what do you do with this information? Most people will do nothing. They'll understand intellectually, they'll nod along, they'll agree with everything, and then they'll go back to their exact same patterns. They'll keep wasting energy. They'll keep avoiding stress. They'll keep creating drama. They'll keep procrastinating. They'll keep ignoring feedback. And the filter will catch them, just like it's been catching them. Nothing will change except they'll now know why they're stuck. A small percentage will actually change. They'll audit their energy. They'll attack stress instead of avoid it. They'll eliminate drama completely. They'll act within 72 hours. They'll seek feedback aggressively. They'll do the mirror exercise weekly. And the filter will let them through. Their results will change immediately. Not because the filter changed, because they changed. Because they aligned their actions with what the filter measures. Which group are you in? I can't answer that for you. You have to answer it through action. Not words, not intentions, action. What are you going to do in the next 72 hours? Not plan, not think about, do. What action are you going to take that proves you're serious about passing through the filter? If you can't answer that specifically right now, you're on the wrong side. If you have a clear action you're taking today, you're on the right side. The filter is operating right now. It's measuring your response to this information. It's tracking what you do in the next 72 hours. It's watching where your energy goes today. Winners are already taking action. They've already identified one pattern to change. They're already implementing. They're already building. Dreamers are already making excuses. They're already finding reasons why this doesn't apply to them. They're already comfortable again. The filter sees the difference. Do you? Act now.